there's no such thing.
I'll let Facebook do its thing and let everybody know that I'm live here. Just a heads up that these trainings do expire. Um, so you do want to grab them before they expire. I'm just trying to pull up the actual, I know Facebook just changed everything and I'm just like, where is everything? But I'm going to pull it up here. And I just want to make sure that I catch everybody's comments and see who is here. Pull up the actual, Facebook just changed everything. Yeah. So if you're here, I always love to know. So just pop into the comments and say, hey, Cindy, what's up? Um, and if you're here on the replay, I love knowing that too as well, to see who's taking advantage of the trainings and who's here not only just to hoard information, like I used to like to call it, but it's who's here to take imperfect action. So today we are talking about the gut and how that's connected to weight loss. A lot of weight loss strategies are things that you've tried, maybe worked for that season of life or where you were at then, but aren't working now, but also miss the gut connection. I made it. Hi, Sarah. Hi, Amanda. I love highs. Yes. Good, thank you. So today's training is to explain why belly fat shows up in perimenopause and menopause. So we're taking like this broader topic and then kind of helping it make sense and giving some practical action steps. We'll do a follow-up one in a couple of weeks where we're going to be like, okay, well, why does it stick around now? And what does that look like too? So get settled in. I always love it if you have a notebook as well, because then you can take notes on these things. Just think about it if you came back for each of the trainings here, what kind of notes you would have in your notebook. Hi, Suzanne, or Susan. You would have in your notebooks, you would have a wealth of knowledge, and then you'd have a wealth of maybe action steps as well that you can take from week to week. So today's training again is explaining why belly fat shows up in perimenopause. And so again, if you haven't done so, let me know if you're here live or on the replay. And we're going to look at, hey Kate, nice to see you too. Okay, and we're going to talk about how the gut is connected to weight loss for women over 40 plus. Most importantly, why this is often like the missing piece. I mean, like you maybe didn't need to worry about your gut before because one, it wasn't an issue, and two, it was like you rebounded from those things a lot quicker. Where now it's like hormones are at play and just it doesn't hit the same, right? So why this matters? So in your 20s and your 30s, you're basically like your body just had more flexibility. You could push harder, you could recover faster, eat whatever, and bounce back. You could go out all night and you could eat the crappy hot dog vendor guy's food and you could be like, I'm good the next day. You could go out drinking all night and you could be like, okay, I can get up the next day, function, go to work, do all of the things, but that just doesn't happen the same way. So we can see it in those instances like that, but we don't necessarily see it in this more subtle ways that happen as our hormones start to shift. So perimenopause and menopause kind of changes kind of your recovery, and I guess like the margin for error is a little bit smaller there, and that's simply just because your hormones shift, stress hits differently, and then digestion just does change. And I'll get to some of the women that are listening to this will be like, yeah, I've never been able to go to the bathroom, that's how it's always been. Hi, Sharon. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. So if your strategy never evolved, then the results stop showing up. It's also permission for you to not go back to what you've always done. You now need a different strategy that's going to meet you where you're at. So this is kind of where your gut comes in. So if you only take one thing from today, weight loss isn't just about calories. So yes, you do need a calorie deficit to solicit weight loss. That is true in perimenopause, menopause, or even postmenopause. We can't override the law of thermodynamics. But also we have to consider it's about what we absorb, and that changes as we kind of age. So you can eat well, you can track, you can do everything right, but if digestion and absorption are off, your body can't use what you're giving it. So that's just kind of a physiology thing, and something that a lot of approaches haven't considered is like, I'm eating all of the things, so I'm eating really healthy, but it doesn't mean that you're absorbing all of the nutrients from those foods. So what poor gut health can actually look like So this is where I want you to listen closely because most women miss this. So poor gut health doesn't always look dramatic. So what can it look like? It can look like bloating, especially in the lower belly. So that can be bloating from like, hey, you get up and you're like, I like what my belly looks like. By the end of the day, it's bloating. It can look like bloating or distension, like you're flat up here, but then underneath the belly button, it's like you got a little bit of a pooch there. That can look like bloating, or it can just be refer to the sensation. It's like I think about it like a balloon, and as you fill up the balloon gets tighter and tighter and tighter. That's what it starts to feel like. And for a lot of people, that comes with discomfort. Some people, it doesn't come with discomfort, it just visually looks different. For other people, it does come with discomfort, where it feels like kind of crampy, kind of menstrual cycle-y thing. So it can also come from feeling tired or foggy after eating. um, And so that can be happening. Always sore or slow recovery from your workouts. That could be a sign of your poor gut as well. Cravings, even when you feel like you ate enough. Again, stubborn belly fat as well. Feeling inflamed or puffy. So that isn't just about your abdomen. It could just be in your face and your fingers and your feet, just like feeling puffy and inflamed all over. It could be show up as energy crashes. For some of you, you explain like the 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. mark, you get some energy crashes in there, or trouble leaning out even though you're in a calorie deficit. So maybe you're losing weight, but that area doesn't seem to budge. It used to budge and now it doesn't, or maybe it's like the weight loss just isn't happening at all. So it's kind of where we need to, okay, take pause. Something needs to be cleared up, and our strategy now needs to consider our overall gut health as well. So to address two different things that usually come up from women when I address gut health, there's the woman that says, I go to the bathroom every day. And I hear this all the time. I go every day, so my gut is fine. So going every day doesn't mean, it just means that you're eliminating. It does not automatically mean that digestion is healthy. What matters more is, do you feel relief after? Are you bloated anyway? Do you feel lighter, still comfortable? Does energy improve or crash? Does your body feel calm or inflamed most of the day? What does it look like on the Bristol stool chart? If you're like, what is the Bristol stool chart? Do a quick Google and look at it. I'm always talking about this with my clients. Does it sink or does it float? Is it solid or is it loose? Are there food particles? Is it easy to pass, messy to wipe? Feels like you emptied once you're done? How often are you going? Those are all things that you want to consider outside of like, I go every day, so it's not a gut issue. You want to really look at the nuances of everything there. So it's like saying like, hey, we're saving money, but not necessarily knowing how you're saving money or how much you're saving money, what the actual plan is. That's why we want to get so detailed there. So you can be regular and still not digesting or absorbing well. So the other thing that I hear is, this is just how I've always been. It's kind of the thing that I hear the most is like, I'm used to not going 2 or 3 days or 5 days in a row. That's how I've always been. It's just me. It's me, who I am. I've always been bloated. I've always had a sensitive stomach. I've always felt tired after eating, or it's like I just don't go. So that means that, hey, it doesn't mean it's normal. It just means it's familiar. In your earlier years, your body compensated. Now it can't do that as easily. So what you've always had, it gets louder in this phase of life. So that's not your body failing. That's your body asking for a different approach. So the visual that I always like visuals, right? So I hope the balloon kind of helped you with a visual in terms of like what the bloating might feel like, particularly in your clothes and in your abdomen. But I like to think about it like a clogged sink, right? So if you have think about it like, okay, well, if you're not absorbing all of the nutrients or you're not going often, think about it as a clogged sink. It doesn't matter how much healthy food you eat. It doesn't matter how much less you eat. It doesn't matter how much you drink. That nothing's going down that sink until you get the clog out. And so when we are younger, we don't necessarily have to think about the clog. It's like our body just works differently. The tolerance is different on things, but now things are compacted and now we have hormones. The reason why we want the clog to go out is you have these hormone fluctuations that are happening now in perimenopause and menopause, some in excess. And so you need a way to kind of get rid of the excess hormones, right? And so when the sink is clogged and you keep doing all of the things, that's why it feels like your hormones maybe are out of balance, or why things aren't working despite you making so many changes to your diet or to your lifestyle. It's like we haven't unclogged the sink. Everything's working within the top of the sink, but nothing is coming down. So I hope that that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if that was like a good visual. I always like good visuals there, so maybe that helps you there. So let's talk about the connection between gut and weight loss, because for some of you listening, that's going to be a kind of a new thing for you. Your gut is not just your stomach, it's a control sensor. So it influences your nutrient absorption, it hunger and fullness signals, your inflammation, your blood sugar, your energy, your recovery, and even your mood and immunity. So if you're the kind of person who gets sick a lot, and this was definitely me, like, I don't know if you've been following me for a long time or whatever, you know that I've struggled with gut issues my entire life. And although I'm a lot more balanced now because of all the systems and things that I've changed and put in place, I remember as a child always being sick. It's like someone got mono, I got mono. Someone got strep, I got strep. Someone got the flu, I got the flu. And it was constantly fighting this immunity. My mom will always say, like, she was always sick. And so nobody ever made the connection between my gut and my immunity. And so if that's ringing true for you as well, it's not an overtraining issue, for example. It could be related to your gut. So if the system is off, your body just spends energy kind of buffering and correcting instead of burning fat. So what does this mean? Well, if the system is off, your body puts more energy into managing, let's say, like the stress, the inflammation, the digestion first. Fat loss doesn't disappear, but it becomes harder and slower because it's no longer the body's top priority. So I'll give you another visual. So let's say you're going to the cottage and you're driving on the highway, right? And let's say the cottage is, I don't know, 6 to 8 hours away. And so when you're driving to the cottage, what we want is we don't want any construction, any delays. We just want a smooth sailing ride. But we know in real life that that's not the way it happens. So think about all the detours that you have. Think about all the construction or slow traffic or traffic jams that you have. So that's how weight loss works. So your destination is to get here, to get to this goal, and then maintain that goal here. But we always have like construction delays, detours, slow traffic or whatever traffic jams along the way. So what does that look like? Well, when you drink alcohol, it's like, okay, throw a detour in your way. Okay, well now I'm dealing with inflammation, throw a detour in your way, or throw, like slow traffic on your way. Okay, well now my sink is clogged, like I'm not going to the bathroom, right? Okay, throw another like construction site along the way. So it's not to say you can't get to the cottage, you can't get to your weight loss goals. It's that now all of these things become priority for the body to kind of like correct or to like ease up on the system so that it can then shift into the priority you want, which is weight loss. Does that visual kind of make sense there? It's like they can coexist, they can happen. So it's not like solve this in order to get this. So you want a strategy that has all of it, right? And to get you there. But we want a strategy that's going to help us have less traffic jams, less slow traffic, less detours and that sort of thing, less construction, right? So the three ways that the gut issues that gut issues kind of stall fat loss is one, poor nutrient absorption. So what does that mean? So you can eat quality food and still be underfueled kind of at that cellular level. So how do you know? So if your gut isn't breaking down food well, you're not fully absorbing things like iron, B12, protein, or fiber. Even if you think you're hitting your macros or hitting your calories, that can be true. So that matters because those nutrients it affects how you feel in your body day to day. It affects your energy. It affects your hunger and your cravings. Maybe that feels harder, which makes it harder for you to stick to it, right? If you have higher levels of cravings and then higher levels of hunger, how sore or tired you feel after a workout, and whether your weight loss feels like a constant fight, and the hormones have this off feeling for no clear reason. So when absorption is poor, a few things tend to happen. And this is where calorie counting gets really frustrating. On paper, you're doing all of the things. In reality, your body is struggling to use what you're giving it. So instead of responding with a fat loss, your system compensates by holding on to energy, which is holding on to some calories, right? Increasing fatigue, driving those cravings, and then a slower output, slower calories out, right? So not because calories don't matter, but because absorption and utilization come first. This is often why weight loss and hormones feel out of sync at the same time. So for some women, they'll think, okay, well, I just need to figure out my hormones. Well, and I'm not suggesting that hormone replacement isn't necessary for some women or isn't helpful for some women, but it's like you can't just rely on that one thing. The hormones live within the ecosystem that you've created, the habits that you have, the nutrition that supports it, the digestion that supports it, the activity, the stress, the sleep, all of it that supports it there. It's kind of like saying, well, I'm going to take a probiotic to fix my gut, but you haven't fixed fixed any of the other things that are around it. You can't just change the oil in your car without fixing all of the other things in your car and expecting it to run smoothly. So hunger and hormones also get noisy. So when your gut and your brain connection is off, your body doesn't get the memo. You eat but don't feel satisfied, or you're thinking about food again and again, and it just feels like, oh my God, I can't stop thinking about food, or I can't stop thinking. And you make concessions, right? I'm only going to eat 3 times a day, and then, oh my God, my hunger is wrong. What am I doing wrong? Did I not eat? And you start questioning your things and start doubting yourself. But then it's like, okay, now no, 3 meals a day is not going to work. So then you start to make a concession. Okay, maybe 1 snack, maybe 2 snacks, right? And then number 3 is inflammation stays high. So inflammation doesn't block weight loss, it competes with it. Just like that analogy I gave you of driving on the highway on the way to the cottage. Hold that visual for you, right? It's like, okay, well, if that's the visual I'm going to hold, then it's like I got to figure out what all the detours, traffic jams, and construction is along the way, so that it doesn't feel like such a slog to get to my goal. So your body will always deal with inflammation first. That means water retention, belly tightness, slower progress, and feeling that nothing is responding the way it should. That's not failure. It's your body doing its actual job. So you can be working out, you can be eating pretty good, you could be cutting back on sugar, tracking, hitting your protein, walking, lifting, and still feel puffy or swollen or achy or tight in your belly, and like your body is not responding. That's kind of what inflammation does. So inflammation is not just a gut thing, it's a whole body signal that says something is irritating me, I'm under stress, I'm not recovering well, I'm not regulating well. So remember that this all changes in perimenopause and menopause. So even when you're doing the right things, your body can act like it's stuck, and this is why it comes in these cycles. So some weeks you might feel lighter, leaner, your digestion is fine, energy is decent. Then you hit a stretch of poor sleep, higher stress, travel, and more rushed meals, and more snacking, more alcohol, more intense workouts, less recovery, and suddenly, list could go on, you feel really inflamed again, and your belly is up, rings are tight, sock lines are deeper, and you feel heavier kind of in your own skin. So that doesn't mean your diet suddenly stopped working. It means your body has shifted into cleanup mode. So here's the part most women miss. Most women think that the answer is only cutting something out, like dairy, gluten, sugar, or carbs. And yes, sometimes removing an irritant is helpful, but it's not the full answer, because inflammation is not only about one food, it's also about the load your body is carrying. So if you cut out dairy, but you're still undersleeping, living on caffeine, rushing meals, barely chewing, training too hard for your stress levels, and constantly grazing, your gut really stays irritated. So inflammation stays, and then your progress feels slower. Again, hold the visual of that highway, right? Where it's like, okay, so now I've got this huge section of a traffic jam where I got to clear out the inflammation. Of course, it's going to take you longer, but most people just quit too early in order to wait out the construction zone that you're in, to wait it out to then get going again. All right, so common mistakes that make this worse. This is where a lot of, you guys are well intentioned, but you get stuck. So you could be, all of the buzz right now, there is more pressure in your 40s to eat protein than there ever was for me to do drugs when I was younger. But a common thing that could happen is ramping protein too fast without fiber and water. So those things can make your belly feel more inflamed or more bloated, or just not feeling the way you want it to feel. So you ramp it up too fast, and you're not buffering it with the fiber and the water. Then the other thing that can happen, because there is pressure to eat more protein now, right, is that you rely on more like processed foods. So like, the protein chips, protein bars, protein powders, those sorts of things. So yeah, that's one way of increasing your protein for sure, but they're more processed. And because they're more processed, then that creates like more of a digestive impact. It's not to say you need to avoid those foods. It's oftentimes the types of those foods, or the amount or the volume of you eating them. Cutting carbs out completely as well. So just let's pause here and break this one down a bit. Let's look at it from a hormonal perspective. Low carb, especially layered on top of life stress, poor sleep, and hard training, increases cortisol. So cortisol is already more sensitive in perimenopause and menopause. And then higher cortisol makes insulin less effective and pushes fat storage towards the belly. So it can disrupt things like thyroid signaling, which lowers how efficient your body uses energy. And when it comes to your workouts, carbs fuel your training. So when carbs are too low, workouts feel harder than they should. Recovery slows, you stay sore longer, strength stalls, and then you build, your fatigue kind of builds up. So then what happens? You either push harder to compensate or you stop enjoying movement altogether. So both increase kind of that stress, both worsen digestion, and both work against your fat loss goals that you have. And when we look at carbs from a digestion and gut perspective, carbs from whole foods feeds your gut bacteria. So when carbs are cut too aggressively, the gut loses its fuel. You can lead to more bloating, irregular digestion, and a stronger cravings later. And this is where women get really confused. They cut out carbs and they see a quick drop on the scale, but what they're seeing for that drop in the scale is actually water weight that's coming off. It's not the fat that you want to lose. But they're saying that that's when they see the most progress is when they cut out carbs, but we're not deciphering the difference between water loss and fat loss as well. Then we're not thinking about the impact that that has hormonally on a long-term perspective and the impact that that has on that clogged sink, your digestive system. And then we're not looking at it, okay, I feel really great for a little bit, but then all of a sudden your energy dips, it slowly, and then your cravings spike, your sleep suffers, and then your weight creeps back on. So the initial drop, again, was not fat loss, it was water and glycogen. So the real issue is it's not the carbs that are a problem, it's the timing, type, and the amount. So let's continue on with a common mistake is ignoring stress and sleep, overdoing fermented foods or probiotics, and grazing all day. Those are other things. Fermented foods are really great for your belly, but if you're overdoing it on fermented foods, and I've also had other women too, and I'll get to it in a bit, but other women that where it's raw vegetables that really bug their system and they didn't know it until we went through our gut protocol when we were coaching together. So let's pause here and talk about this one a bit. A lot of women were taught that eating every, 2 hours keeps their metabolism stoked. And 100% admit that I used to believe this and teach this as well. The belief, but that belief did not come from women in perimenopause or menopause, and it doesn't hold up here. So your digestion needs work time and then it needs rest time. So every time you eat, your body switches into digestion mode. So blood flows towards the gut, hormones are released, insulin goes up, your system is doing its work, right? But when you graze all day, your body never gets a break from that work. So that matters because digestion is not just about breaking down food, it's also about clearing that inflammation, regulating that blood sugar, and sending the accurate hunger and fullness signals. So when the food keeps coming in, blood sugar stays more elevated, and that doesn't mean that diabetes or pre-diabetes, right? Insulin stays more elevated and the gut stays on. That's not a metabolism issue. That's a system that never gets to reset there. So the rest and digest matters. Your nervous system has two gears: stress and digest, rest and digest. So constant grazing keeps you out of that rest and digest. The gut never fully finishes one job before the next one arrives. So when meals are spaced, digestion can complete, insulin comes back down, hunger cues sharpen, energy stabilizes, and the body gets a window to burn stored fuel. So this doesn't mean long fasts. This does not mean ignoring hunger, and it does not mean rigid meal rules, right? It means kind of like a rhythm or a structure of eating in a consistent basis. Okay, so let's get back to, sorry, I diverted. Let's go back to common mistakes. Over-exercising during high stress seasons is another reason why your gut might be more bloated or digestion might be off. Drinking lots of zero-calorie sweetener drinks. This one is much like the mistake we already talked about with the healthy processed foods like the protein bars and things like that. It's just like artificial sweeteners can disrupt your gut bacteria. It's not to say you can't have them. It's not to say that you can still have weight loss and do them because they have 0 calories. It's to say we got to think about it from this lens versus this lens, and we got to think about an approach that marries the two together. So yeah, so there's that. And lastly, late heavy meals that disrupt sleep. So this is often more of a weekend thing where you're going out for dinner, or you're staying up later. So, that your body then, if you think about it, it needs that rest and digest. It doesn't get that. You eat the heavy meal and it continues to work all night, even though you're sleeping, until that meal is fully digested. So you need kind of an approach that looks at it from all those different angles, right? So signs your gut might need attention. We kind of already covered these, but let's see if I can be a little bit more precise in terms of what's come up with my clients after coaching them for 16 plus years. So persistent bloating, it could be bloating around your menstrual cycle, just before, during, or after, but or it could just be after certain meals. So then that's when we have to look at what it is that you're eating as well. But it could just be like beginning of the day versus end of the day. Gas, constipation, diarrhea, or even acid reflux. Skin flare-ups, like I've had clients who have a runny nose, but that's aside from that is more like rosacea as well, or just like more acne, or like those little tiny bumps around their chin line here. Joint pain or stiffness as well. Headaches, headaches to the extent of migraines as well. Sleep disturbances can cause that. Generally, that's about how late you're eating and what you're eating too. Food sensitivities that weren't there before, craving just more sugar or more of those higher fat, higher salt foods, and then constant fatigue. So if you're chasing symptoms instead of the root, nothing is kind of going to resolve it, right? So what actually helps, okay, so it's not a reset, it's not a cleanse, it's not all or nothing, it's doing simple things better. So you want to like think about an approach, like if you're going to increase protein, because again, there's pressure, then you just want to make sure that you have fiber and water to go along with it. So you want to increase your fiber slowly. So, if you hear somebody say you need 28 to 34 grams of fiber, that might be true. But if you're only hitting 5 to 16 right now, you need to gradually, slowly, progressively build that over time so that it doesn't disrupt the digestive system. But then you also want to make sure that if you're increasing your protein, it's the same approach slowly, but you are also adding in water in at the same time. You can balance protein with carbs and fats as well. Hydration, like we talked about, reduce ultra processed foods. It's not to say cut out. I'm not a believer in cutting it completely out, but it is reducing the amount of ultra processed foods. Paying attention to foods you're sensitive to doesn't mean that you have to have a full blown allergy to. Managing stress intentionally, eating meals, not constant snacks, for the reasons what we already kind of talked about, right? You can also move after your meals when possible. That'll help you with digestion. Guys, we want to eat slow and actually chew our food. It's surprising that even though I coach on how to do this with my coaching clients, that they always say, that one is really hard. It's the habit that sticks around the longest. It's the simplest one to understand. It's the one that's it's overseen or whatever, and it's the harder one to execute. Sleep matters more than you think, and then supplement only if needed. It's not as a shortcut. So it's not like take a probiotic, take a digestive enzyme, and then don't worry about any of this other stuff. That's not how it works. So the real takeaway, the hard part isn't knowing what to do. It's obviously doing it consistently without burning yourself out. So that's kind of, this training was helping you understand, okay, what's happening behind the scenes, make sense of it in a way that you can apply it to your life. So what I want you to do is, whether you're here on the live or the replay, or you're going to rewatch it, is I want you to go back and pick, well, what are the 1 to 2 things that I can focus on from now until the next training? Because in the next training, you can come back here and, re-listen to this one, or get more skills and habits from the next training that you can build on. So what I want you to do is pick 1 or 2 that you're like, okay, I'm going to relentlessly, consistently, imperfectly focus on these to help me kind of, figure out the clogged sink here, so that I have, again, the visual is less detours and, construction and slow traffic jams on the way to the cottage or on the way to your weight loss goals. So as we round it out, anyone that's here live, opportunity to ask questions before I close off today's training. We'll come back in a couple of weeks with another training, similar topic, different ways of covering it as well, and opportunity to ask questions as well. But I always love knowing who the imperfect action takers are. So just drop into the comments, what's the 1 to 2 things that you're going to focus on here. So if this helped me, tell me in the comments, what's one thing you're going to do differently after watching this. If you're listening to this and thinking, okay, this makes sense, but I don't know how to actually apply it consistently, that's normal. So this training is kind of meant to create clarity. It's not meant to replace actual support. So if at some point you want help personalizing this and staying accountable, you can always reach out and ask questions. No pressure, just know that support exists. So for now, stay here, keep learning, keep taking imperfect action. That's how results stack. And I'm Coach Cindy, signing off. Thanks so much for joining me on today's coaching.